allowing us the opportunity to do this webinar. We also appreciate everybody that has attended, and we hope to make this very informational for you and pretty fast-paced as well. So as means of introduction, as Adrian said, my name is Dawn Jager. I'll be the moderator for today, and I'm the Director of Partner Recruiting for Acumatica. I've had the pleasure of being with Acumatica now for over 3 years, and it's been just a great experience for me. And I couldn't be more pleased to be joined by Patricia Bennett. She's been around Acumatica even longer than I have. She's been one of our earliest partners to sign on and see the advantages of Acumatica. And if we look back to our first summit ever, where we had a tiny room full of people, Patricia's waving to us in that picture. So Patricia, we're really happy that you've joined us. Thank you. She's with the CEO of EndtoEnd Solution. And I'd like to give Patricia an opportunity. I thought it would be, for our audience, important for everyone to know a little bit more about Patricia and her company and how this relationship came about. Not only would it be of interest, I think, to potential customers on the phone, but also to potential partners. So, Patricia, with that, please tell the audience a bit more about your history and how this partnership came about.
Thank you, Dawn. Really appreciate the opportunity. Again, my name is Patricia Bennett. I'm the founder of EndtoEnd Solution. EndtoEnd Solutions was started back in 2002, and just not to deviate too much, but I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was driving everybody around me crazy. So I decided to start a business, and the purpose was to work while the baby was asleep. And I felt that if I kept it small, I didn't need an army of people around me. So that's really how EndtoEnd got started back in 2002. I was a Microsoft partner. Started with Small Business Financials, which is a small application that they created when they bought Great Plains. Very quickly, I added Great Plains and CRM to the stack of products we sold. And in 2011, I was introduced to Acumatica by an ex-Microsoft employee, and I was pretty much blown away by the technology, the functionality, the ease of use, and decided to become a partner. So I was one of the first partners for Acumatica. Since then, in 2014, I took the bold move and decided to sell my Microsoft practice and focus 100% on Acumatica. Since then, we've been one of the 50 fastest growing companies in the east side of Washington and one of the 100 fastest growing companies in the state of Washington. So it was a great move at the beginning. It was very scary, but it was really definitely a good move for the company. And here we are. 5 years later, we're in 2012, we got our first deal, and we haven't looked back. So that's a little bit about EndtoEnd Solutions.
That's great history from your roots as a mom wanting to enter into it lately to being our top partner, and really throughout the years very, very well decorated. So that kind of leads us into, why did you decide exclusively to focus on Acumatica? I know there were a few things that you mentioned to me before, but maybe this would also speak to the audience on some of the things that are differentiators and made sense to you.
So as I mentioned, we were a Microsoft partner, and those of you who have been partners of Microsoft know that they pretty much decided that they were going to focus on a handful of partners. Their focus went mostly to Dynamics AX. It was becoming more and more difficult to do business with them, and at the same time, we had Acumatica, who was very supportive, very approachable, very easy to work with. So that was one factor. The other factor is that those employees of mine that decided to learn Acumatica suddenly were too busy to work on Microsoft products when need be, because they were working on Acumatica. So I got to a point that I needed to hire additional Microsoft consultants and decided that I didn't want to go there. So that was another reason. Obviously, the application, the technology, being able to work with newer technology instead of, you know, the technology that was new 40 years ago. And the ability to just focus on one thing. I really admire those companies that represent 4 or 5 products. And because in order to do a good job of representing that many products and really being able to be knowledgeable on 4 or 5 products is not that easy. So those were my main reasons.
Right, and I think you also had a development team, right? And you're one of those companies that wants to do as close to a 100% fit for your customers as possible. So I think the platform, that the ability to do modifications had something to do with it, right?
It did, absolutely. It was becoming more and more difficult to find dexterity developers. Dexterity is the language in which Great Plains was written, so yeah.
Well, and then, so those are great reasons for you personally to focus on Acumatica, but I think in general for the audience too, maybe some things that set us apart in general. So anybody out there in the audience that's considering a move from a legacy product, maybe there are some things that you could touch on here that you think may make a difference in a cloud solution and what's different about the product.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to go in the order of your slide. I would say the #1 differentiator is the unlimited users. I'm just going to tell a little story. I had one of my GP customers. It's about $150,000, $150 million a year company. So they're huge. They're global, and they had about, I think, between 40 and 50 users of Dynamics. And the CFO one day got really upset and decided he was done buying users because it was costing too much money and whatever. So they would send an email throughout the company saying, can somebody get out of Great Plains so I can get in? And I'm talking, this email went through the United States, Canada, Singapore. I mean, they had offices all over the place. So the ability to be able to incorporate the entire organization, everybody in your company in one application, and be able to have one repository of data with a consistent look and feel that everybody in the organization can work with, it's huge advantage, in my opinion. The other thing is it's device independent. I mean, you can launch it on your iPad, you can launch it on your tablet, you can launch it on your desktop, laptop, you can even launch it on your phone. There is a phone app, so it's device independent. And Acumatica is all about doing business your way. So if you want to purchase the software on-premise, just like you did the old software, so you buy the software, you install it on your server, and you pay an annual maintenance, they will sell it that way. If you want to go SaaS, where Acumatica hosts the application in the Amazon Web Services, we can do that as well. And they even have a third option where you basically lease the software and pay an annual lease fee, and you host it wherever you want. So whichever way you want to deploy Acumatica is whatever way works for you and your organization. And those, to me, those are the 3 biggest advantages for the customer. Obviously, the technology is always up there. #1, I mean, new technology, the ability to import and export data out of the system, just about every screen. I mean, there's lots and lots of advantages, but those 3 items are huge.
Well, thank you. And that just kind of sets the stage for these 3 specific examples. And I think the audience will realize, too, once we get through these 3, that they're very, very diverse types of companies. So it kind of addresses the wide appeal for a wide variety of customers. So the first one that you could tell us maybe a little bit more about, Patricia, is Aditi Staffing. And we'll kind of start with their situation, and then we'll talk about what Acumatica solution they're using and the benefits they derived.
Okay, so Aditi came to us. They had a situation where they were using Dynamics AX. They had offices in India and Bellevue, Washington. What they do is they subcontract people out to Microsoft and Google and other technical organizations. And if you think of that type of business, then you have people going into these other locations like Microsoft and working there. Then those people enter their time into, if we're going to talk about Microsoft, let's say we subcontract somebody to Microsoft. That individual is going to be working at Microsoft and entering their time into whatever system Microsoft is requesting them to enter time. So what happens is at the end of the week, at the end of the month, whatever it is, Microsoft sends a file to Aditi to tell them how many hours this person worked for them. So what Aditi was doing is they were entering those hours for every single employee manually into their system to figure out payroll. So what we did with Acumatica is we created a series of import scenarios, and this is standard Acumatica functionality, nothing customized, so that they could import regardless of what format the file came in. We would import that data directly into Acumatica. And what that does is gave Aditi the ability to build their customers faster. So it totally reduced this process from like 1 week to 1 day. They have, and I could be totally outdated because I don't remember, but it was something like 80 customers or 80 different sets of files that they were importing data into Acumatica. So imagine if you had to do that manually. What it also did is it gave them the ability for their team in India to be able to use the same functionality and the same solution, because it's a browser-based application. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in China, you could be in India, you could be here in the States or in South America. It's the same software, as long as you have the credentials to log in and to transact, and it doesn't matter where you are. It gave them better visibility into their business, faster reporting. What else am I supposed to tell you? What are they using? They're just using the financial management system. Yeah, fixed assets they're using.
I think you touched on something really pretty important, the fact that you can be anywhere. So that's one of the distinctions of a true cloud solution, is that you don't need any middleware at all. You don't need Citrix, you don't need terminal services, you need to load anything on your device. It's just purely any device that can gain access to the internet can have access to Acumatica. So that's...
You need a browser and you need internet.
Yeah, that's it. So that's a great overview for that one. Now, this is obviously, a nursery is a far, far different type of scenario and brings its own complexities. It's like a manufacturing company to a certain degree, but with a whole different set of challenges. So maybe you can explain a little bit about their situation.
So C&O Nursery is a company out in Wenatchee, Washington that grows fruit trees, mostly apples and pears and cherries. And this customer has been with PC Bennett since 2004. They started with small business financials when they were like 4 people in the organization, and eventually they grew. So we put them into Dynamics GP. When we first got this customer, they had a developer that had built a whole inventory system on Access for them. If you think of inventory, usually you think of shelves and, with bin numbers and locations and widgets in them. Well, when you think of trees, these are not static widgets. These are widgets that are growing, some of them are dying, some of them are increasing in value. The cost of the widget increases as time goes by. So inventory of a tree or a plant, it's a whole different ballgame. So they had this inventory system that had been built for them in Access, and they came to us in 2012 saying that they wanted us to build the inventory system into their Dynamics application. And at that point, I decided to introduce Acumatica to them because building that application in Acumatica was going to be half the time of building that application in Dynamics, just because of the technology. So what we did is we built their inventory system into Acumatica. So it's built with the tools that Acumatica provides. And now they have one application where their inventory resides, their sales orders, the purchasing, everything is in one system. So that's what they gain out of it. For those of you that are maybe thinking, what does an inventory system for a nursery looks like? Basically, you plant the seeds or the stock, and then in intervals of time, say a month later, you go and count and see how many survive, how many have died. Then they give them the different varieties of apples, let's say. So, you know, you have your Aztecas and whatever, the different kinds of the Fiji apples. And then a month later or 2 weeks later, they go and see how many have taken the inserts and how many have died. And the count continually is changing. So even though you planted 1,000 trees, you may end up with 800 because of, you know, the attrition throughout the process. The other thing that is really, really interesting about these guys is that we're in 2016, so right now they're taking orders for probably 2019 or 2020. So their orders come in 3 and 4 years in advance. And Acumatica right now is handling their entire system.
That's a good point. That's a very different way of keeping track of inventory. And I know we have a number of other growers that are using Acumatica too. Maybe this would be an appropriate time. I think, Patricia, this was a customer that you sold them their initial system, then they made the move to Great Plains and then to Acumatica. I think, is this the one where you mentioned there were a number of disparate systems that you had to use in the past, but now with Acumatica?
No, this is not the one. Sorry.
All right, that's all right, because certainly there are those instances, and that might be in the next one coming up. But you were able to...
These guys were just using 2 separate systems, one for inventory and then the ERP system. So the inventory had housed the original sales orders, and then we imported those into GP, and they would just pretty much track the inventory. When the final count was done, then that inventory was put into GP, and GP was used to produce the shipping and the invoice to the customer. So there was an integration between the two, but there were issues that they wanted to resolve, and they wanted to be able to access one system. Yeah, and the fact that it is a browser-based application, it means that the guys on the fields, the people that are managing the fields, can look and see what the counts are, what the inventory available is, all those things. So there's a huge advantage to being able to take an iPad and work from out in the middle of a field in Wenatchee, Washington.
There you go. That's a very good point. And I'm sure that same accessibility is important to a lot of different companies when you think about taking, well, even something as simple as if they're using, say, a time clock in the warehouse and they want to replace that with an iPad and give everybody a login to Acumatica, something like that, when it doesn't cost you additional for users, and then you can eliminate an expense and eliminate data entry, things like that, I think end up really helping to cost justify a system like this. So
absolutely.
So now on to the third example. So this is yet a different implementation and different type of customer. This is a retail customer. Please tell us about these guys, because I know it's significantly different.
Yeah, well, first of all, we did not sell this customer. This is a customer that purchased the software from a different organization and then came to us for help with the implementation. Mm-hmm. They had a very, very old system and a series of applications / Excel spreadsheets, even paper that they were using to track their business. It was totally in pieces, and getting information in order to make decisions, business decisions, was extremely difficult. So they were looking for an application that could handle all of their inventory and keep their inventory up to date, that was easy to use, and that was somewhat modern, and that would help them with their business. They have, if I'm not wrong, they have about 6 or 7 stores, and they have a couple of warehouses. So they wanted all of this to be able to communicate with each other. The solution for them was Fusion Point of Sale as well as Acumatica. Fusion is an application that has been fully integrated with Acumatica, and it's a point of sale solution. So right now they can sell out of their stores, and they can see what the inventory availability is, not only in their stores but in other stores, that are nearby, in case somebody comes to look at something and it's not available in that particular store. So that is huge. They also have e-commerce that is also integrated with Acumatica, and it has made a big difference. It has allowed them to get reporting a lot faster, and it totally eliminated a lot of duplicate entry and a lot of manual entries and a lot of manual reporting.
So it's interesting that this company considers themselves both a manufacturer and, of course, a retailer, and you were able to put this solution together, the solution for financials and distribution and POS. Now, I know also you often are working with manufacturing companies, and you've sold the manufacturing solution for Acumatica too. What types of manufacturers do you think are best suited for the Acumatica solution?
Let's see. We have like 3 or 4 companies that are using the manufacturing application. 2 of them are in the cosmetic industry, and it's not necessarily because we went after the cosmetic industry. It just happened. One of them manufactures fertilizer. In general, it's a pretty straightforward manufacturing system. Let's see what they're doing. In most of those guys' cases, they're doing a lot of assemblies. They're doing a lot of putting together components. Mm-hmm. But I know that the application handles more complex manufacturing as well.
Absolutely. Well, so in looking at these 3 then, they're all pretty diverse, but I think some of the advantages we talked about earlier on, these companies are all enjoying. But if you were to, let's say, before we take some questions, if you were kind of wanting to summarize what you think the advantages are, the unique advantages for customers, what would you say those are?
So it has been our experience that Acumatica takes less time for end users to learn than other applications that we have worked with in the past, like GP or SL for that matter. So it's easier to learn, which is a huge advantage. If you have the need of importing data into the system, it really has a lot of tools available out of the box in order to do that, from what we call import scenarios to web services and APIs. So that's another advantage. Obviously, unlimited users, we already talked about that. Definitely an advantage. The fact that it is a browser-based application and you can open it from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. You can always access your system as long as you have credentials. And talking about credentials, the security within the system, it's very robust. So you can decide what people have access to. Let's see what else.
How about, Patricia, I know, especially for quite a number of Sage partners, when they see the solution and what's included out of the box, they're kind of amazed at some of the third-party solutions then that may not be necessary. Now, naturally, we have all sorts of third-party solutions like Fusion, POS, we mentioned, or American Payment Solutions for credit card processing, or a wide variety, Avalara for tax and so forth.
Yeah.
So many ISVs are all integrated with Acumatica, but can you point to any of the things that are inherent in the solution that would not need to be a third-party solution then, that you might have?
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm super excited about is there is a mobile app that allows people to enter their time, to take a picture of a receipt after dinner when they're out on the road and submit it for a reimbursement. All this goes through approval, by the way. So time entry is something that's out of the box, part of the Acumatica system, the same as expense reimbursement. Another really cool feature that out of the box is the ability to drag and drop documents into Acumatica. So let's say, for example, you have a vendor's invoice on an email. You can take that PDF and drag and drop it into the transaction for that vendor. That's totally out of the box. So there's a lot of little stuff like that that makes life so much easier that with other applications it would require a third-party product. Those are the things that come to mind. Oh, one more thing. There's a customer portal. This is huge for some people. So if you want your customers, if you're a distributor, for example, and you want your customers to be able to take a look at, see what orders they've placed and maybe place another order and take a look at, see if things have been shipped or not, there is a customer portal. The fact that we have unlimited users also means that if you want to, you can allow your vendors to have access to your system. Your vendors can enter time in the time entry system, and you can set them up to not go to payroll, but now you have the time in there. And if you are like us and you bill for the time, that's what you sell, then now they can enter their time, and you don't have to wait for them to send you an email or, God forbid, fax something.
Yeah.
So those are some of the advantages for customers.
And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I have a couple other things that came to mind. Like in some other systems, if you want CRM, that's a totally different solution that's been integrated with the core financials. So two things come to mind. I mean, we have our own CRM with Acumatica. We have our own fixed assets, and something else that's kind of unique. Not all the vendors offer their own payroll. So you're probably in a unique position to talk about payroll.
Yes. So one of the things that we're really excited in the way that we sell Acumatica is we sell it as an end-to-end solution. So you can start with a marketing campaign or a marketing plan, and then the execution of that, the generation of leads, then you turn them into opportunities, and eventually they become customers. And then you go into that operations part of your business, whatever that is. It could be manufacturing, it could be distribution, it could be professional services. And Acumatica will handle that middle part too. And then at the end, you want to be able to have reporting and business intelligence. So from one end of from the lead generation all the way to the cash collection and the reporting, the business intelligence, Acumatica can handle that business. That is definitely a great solution. Because I used to sell Dynamics GP, then I am able to say this, that with Acumatica, you only need one application. And with Dynamics GP, in order to do the same thing, you need about 6 or 7 applications, especially if you start with CRM. Then you need a connector. You can either use the one that Microsoft gives you, or you could use something like Scribe, so that's 2. You need the server application, and then if you want to do use their browser software, you need Silverlight and the web software. That's 5. And their financial reporting is management reporting. That's 6. So 6 applications to do what Acumatica does with 1. So that's a huge statement right there.
Well, thank you, and that's probably important to customers when they really feel like they're getting an all-inclusive solution. So that's a great summary for customers, and I know we have a number of partners on the phone too that are either representing Acumatica already or maybe thinking about it. But what advantages can you think of for partners?
Well, since I just mentioned the difference between GP and Acumatica, one of the issues that we had supporting GP is Microsoft had thrown the whole stack at GP. So, and when you have that many applications trying to work together, then if something breaks, supporting that becomes that much more difficult. So with Acumatica, you just have one platform, one application. So for partners, first of all, I have to say that working with the people at Acumatica has been a pleasure. And I'm not saying that just because Don is on the phone, but it was one of the key factors for us to go 100% with Acumatica. I don't always agree with everything they do, I can tell you that, but it's always been cordial, professional. They're willing to listen. It definitely has been a very, very pleasant relationship. And at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we all want to just, do our jobs and have fun and move forward. So that has been great. The technology, the improvements to the product, the fact that it's just one application. What else?
Well,
somehow I went blank.
No, that's a good summary, and I think what I would add to that is, of course, we really value our partners. That's our only route to market. We don't sell anything direct, so we really believe in offering training. So our training is free of charge for any level of certification that you choose. The other thing, we don't have any artificial fees, so no annual fees, no fees to become a partner, because we know any partner that joins us, they certainly have an investment that they're making in time and training their people. We offer free support. We have people on our team to help you with pre-sales, to help you even on your first implementation, if you want to make sure that you end up with a happy, satisfied customer. I mean, that's the bottom line. We stand together. We stand behind our partners. And at the end of the day, we all have a common goal of creating happy, successful, raving fan type of customers. So I think that in a nutshell kind of does summarize it. And we might think of a couple other things we want to throw in there, but I think at this point, Adrian, if there are people on the phone that would like to ask some questions, either of Patricia or myself, I'm going to display our contact information, so don't be shy, but if you think of something after the fact or you want to reach out to either one of us, our contact information is up there, but we'd be happy to take some questions if you like, if there are any out there.
And we do have a few questions, and I'd like to launch a poll just real quick here for the audience as I'm announcing the questions. Are you interested in learning more about Acumatica? If you could just take a moment to answer this yes or not at this time, thank you so much for doing so. And we have a few questions here. This one's from John. We're considering a move off of our current solution and would like your suggestions on how to select the right partner to work with.
That's a great one for you, Patricia.
And actually, that's a great question, because changing software, it's like putting your business through open heart surgery, and you want to choose the right doctor. And really, it has to be people that you get along. It has to be people that are willing to work with you the way that you can work with them. But at the same time, you want to make sure that the people that you work with have and can show you how they're going to take you from where you are today to where you want to be. One of probably one of the hardest things for us partners is to make sure that the customer, the future customer, has the right expectations. Usually at the beginning, they think that the software is going to sweep the floors for them. And ideally, by the time they purchase the software, they realize exactly what's going to be that software is really going to deliver for them. So being able to have the right expectations and make sure that you know, the end users know that implementations are not easy, and we go kind of through this bell curve. At the beginning, everybody's so excited and all that, and towards the middle of it, the customer is getting edgy, and you know, that they're ready to be done and they're not done. So there's definitely there has to be the ability to communicate. It is good if the customer has a project manager in place, and just ask them for the methodology. Ask them for how is it that they're going to take you from where you are today to where you want to be, and make sure that you like their answers, and make sure you talk to their customers. Talk to other customers and see how it went for them. That is super important.
And those are some excellent points, Patricia. Thank you for that. I just want to remind the audience that we do have a poll up. I see that 63% of you have answered this poll. If we could get that to 100%, that would be awesome. And let's see. We have an old, outdated legacy solution that we're using, and it's been pieced together. You mentioned that you could do customizations if necessary. Isn't that difficult to accomplish with a SaaS solution? And could you give a couple examples of modifications that you've done for other customers?
Absolutely. So obviously CNO is the best example, and it's not that difficult because Acumatica has built, so really before there was an ERP system, Acumatica built the tools, the development tools. And then they use those development tools to build the ERP system. Those development tools are available to anybody who purchases Acumatica, as a matter of fact. Having said that, you do need training. It's not like you're going to pick up and start customizing Acumatica yourself. We have 5 developers on staff. So we have customized, let's see, you asked me what examples of what we customized. Actually, PC Bennett developed the payroll software for Acumatica. And it is Acumatica's product, but our staff did the development because we had the knowledge of payroll in the U.S. So that's one example. The inventory for CNO is another example. We have a local non-for-profit organization that we have customized the CRM piece to track their they're not patients, they're, what do you call the people that take advantage of a non-for-profit? I don't speak English, I'm sorry.
Donors?
Yeah, well, no, not the donors, but the people receiving the service. Anyways, so
the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Yes. So tracking the beneficiaries and their families, and in some cases, if they take insurance, you know, tracking all that information. So we can really build anything that you need. If we have a customer that, even though Acumatica has a lot of automation, they were very particular about how they wanted their shipping process to work. And they wanted that as soon as you confirm that that the shipment has gone, the invoice to be created automatically and to print the invoice into a specific printer. We did that. We created an application as well for an integration with WorldShip, UPS WorldShip. We've created, we created an application to track containers. People that deal with containers, then when that inventory touches the water, that becomes an asset to the company who purchases the inventory. However, that inventory should not be received into the system because it's not available to sell maybe for a month, or it depends on how far it's coming from. So we created an application to track containers and all the different vessels and their points of entry and all of that. What else have we done? Well, I think that's good examples.
Those are great examples because one's an application for Acumatica that is sold throughout our partner channel. Other things, I think that's a good point. I mean, any partner that comes on board with Acumatica, you gain access to our XRP platform, our tool set. You would gain access to the business application source code. You can use web services for integrating solutions. And if you choose, you can work on a particular vertical market and add functionality so that that becomes your proprietary and competitive advantage, or you could develop it in such a fashion that it can get certified by Acumatica and then you can sell it through the rest of the channel. Or, as Patricia has done with the Nursery, you can just do one-off customizations and modifications. So that was a question. We really appreciate that. That was a good one.
And there's an add-on to this question. Patricia, could you address for us how the customizations are deployed in a SaaS environment?
I'll try. I know that there is a tool inside of Acumatica where you tell it to upload the customization and then publish it. If they want a really technical answer to that, I am definitely not the right person. But you do it through the user interface. In some cases, it may be that we need to do it through the server, in which case Acumatica, if it's a SaaS environment, Acumatica will upload the customization for you. But I know that we do our own, so there has to be a way through the user interface. Right. Or there is a way.
Yeah, there absolutely is a way. So whether you deploy the product on-prem or in our cloud or in another cloud, we publish a complete developer guide. In fact, for anybody that's interested in taking a look at that, you can go to adn.acumatica.com. So again, that was adn.acumatica.com. That'll speak about the development environment. And at the bottom of that page, you can gain access to the complete developer guide. And that will kind of explain how you do things like that. Also, for Acumatica, although our competitors would like to say we're not a true SaaS solution, we absolutely are. And we were developed for the cloud, no legacy product. But when it comes right down to it, in North America specifically, the way we deploy is as it's in the cloud, of course, but if you choose our SaaS solution, each customer gets their own instance. So the advantage of that is that if, let's say, Patricia is doing a modification for one particular customer, she can do that, and they have their own instance in the cloud. That also means that unlike other SaaS solutions out there, when they decide to upgrade, everybody has to upgrade. So they might give you 2 dates. Well, you can upgrade on this date or you can update on this date, but everybody's got to go. And that's not the case with Acumatica. So if Patricia's heavily modified your instance, but then she hasn't modified at all somebody else's instance, they might want to upgrade to our next version immediately, which they can do. And then you may want a little bit of time just to test reapplying your modifications in the new environment, and you may want to upgrade 3 months from now. So again, I think when you look at Acumatica, it's really all about flexibility, and that's a differentiator for us.
And we have another question here from Manik. Thank you, Manik, for your question. What is the percent or preference of the customers choosing SaaS or on-premise?
So that has been a really interesting fact to observe. Back in 2012, when we did our first sales, they were all on-premise. I mean, people pretty much didn't want to think about SaaS. And as time has gone by, SaaS has become more predominant and on-premise has become less predominant. From what I can tell, it depends on the age of the buyer, number one. It depends on the size of the company and whether they have a strong IT staff or not. If they have a strong IT staff, they're going to go on-premise because they, in a lot of cases, they want to make sure that, you know, they have a job after the software has been purchased. Although I really don't think that it takes their job away, but I know that some IT people feel very threatened by it. But it's definitely changing. It's definitely getting to be more SaaS, less on-premise, but we still sell some on-premise.
Yeah, and I'll take that question too, because when I first came aboard at Acumatica, more than 60% of the sales were on-prem sales, where they were actually investing in a license and deploying it on-prem. And we've noticed that now it's more like, oh gosh, around 80% plus or minus, even more, that is now going to the subscription model. And I think it's for a number of reasons. 2 things. Number one, as customers get more and more used to using business applications in the cloud, whether it's personal, their own banking, they feel secure doing that, or whether it's they started out with CRM and now they feel like, well, that's gone really well, let's do that with ERP as well. That, and I think all the trends, so anybody that's watching what their neighbors or other people in their particular market are doing, the analysts, everything is talking about the cloud and the move and the safety and so forth. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think most ERP partners, when they come on board, they're used to selling an on-prem solution. So I think there's just a normal reluctance to try something that's new, or it might feel safer to sell in the fashion that you've sold in the past. But I think as the partners see the advantages, not only for the customers, but they see the advantages in that the customer can spend more dollars with the implementation, with training, making the solution work for them. In the unlimited user model, they want to involve more people at their company. They'd rather spend the dollars that they've allocated toward productivity gains rather than maintaining an IT stack and an IT staff. Plus, I think the partners over time have found that it's really better for their organization as well. So I would echo the same thing. It's been a dramatic shift over the last couple of years, so that the vast majority of all of our sales are subscription sales. Great question. Thank you, Manik.
And I see 2 more questions here. And we still have the poll up, and we're at 77%. So a few of you have not answered this poll, and we would love to hear from you, so please do if possible. And we do have another question here from Manik. Again, thank you, Manik. How flexible or ease is the customization if the customer has specific modules to be developed, which has to be integrated with the various modules of Acumatica?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, Adrian.
Sure. How flexible or easy is the customization if the customer has specific modules to be developed which has to be integrated with the various modules of Acumatica?
That is actually a pretty good question, and it's something that people doing customizations need to be careful with. Because let's say, for example, something simple. We change the way that the lookup for projects is. Well, you need to make sure that you change it at every point where there's a lookup for projects. Otherwise, you're going to get one thing when you look at from here and another thing when you look at for somewhere else. So whoever does the design of that customization really needs to know what they're doing, and they need to be very familiar with the application and all the different areas that any particular function touches. So if you're talking about customizing customers, then you need to make sure that you change it in every place where there's a customer. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, let's say, for example, that one of our customers is Republic Parking, and we're using Project to track the different lots. So to change the word project to parking lot, it's a piece of cake. You do it one time, and it changes throughout the entire system. So it depends on the customization. There's one thing that I think it's huge in Acumatica, and I have not mentioned, and it is that Acumatica has this concept of attributes. And attributes are what in other applications are called user-definable fields, except that you can have as many as you want, and they're available throughout the entire system. So if we're looking at, let's say, inventory, then let's assume that you sell, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but bottles of wine, and you want to know, the different varieties, or, the percentage of alcohol, or there's some particular information, then you have 5 other things that you need to track for every bottle of wine. Well, we can create those 5 attributes and have those attributes assigned to maybe the inventory class wine bottles. And then track that information. Every time you create one of these attributes, you have access to their APIs. You can import and export into it. All the functionality of Acumatica of the system is available to those attributes. So in some cases, you don't even need to customize the software. All you need to do is create these attributes. So it depends on what you need. Some customizations may be harder than others, but you definitely need to know what you're doing so you don't break the system.
And to that end, we published, as I mentioned, the complete developer guide. And for those companies that want to do something similar to what Patricia did, let's say in developing a solution that the rest of the partner channel has, we'll teach you how to develop in such a fashion that it can be certified by Acumatica, and how to make it upgrade safe. So when we move to the next version, you don't really have to worry about your customizations moving forward. The other thing I'll say is that the training, we offer training. It's not required, but many of our partners really embrace this development environment so they can give their customers a complete solution. And in doing so, we offer the developer training. We offer training on integration and how to connect it to other solutions. We're .NET based. We use web services. It's an HTML5 solution. So there are a lot of things then where you can pick up a .NET developer, and in conjunction with a business specialist, you can really do the customizations you need. Now, it looks like we've only got a couple minutes left, Adrian. I don't know if there are any other questions.
We have one more question here, and it's pertaining to the channel and how Acumatica works with the channel. So you mentioned you're 100% channel-based, which is certainly attractive to us because the ERPs that we represent are not. what other advantages does Acumatica have over the other vendor programs?
Well, I'd say over the other vendor programs, I mean, first of all, absolutely, I think the biggest thing is that we don't sell direct, so you'll never compete with us. We have a lead registration system. As I mentioned, there are no fees to join the program, no annual fees. The thresholds that you have to attain are relatively low compared to any other vendor program out there. We have dedicated people, whether it's a partner account manager, pre-sales people to help you qualify opportunities and help you with your first few demos while you're building those skills. The best thing that could ever happen is you come aboard as a partner and you close a deal before you're even you feel competent to fully implement it. We have an implementation team that you can choose to bring in and assist, so you get the happy, satisfied customer. I think if to summarize it, like Patricia said, we're all people and we enjoy relationships. So that's the one thing. After being here for 3 years, everybody's heart is in the right place. Our jobs are all dependent upon supporting our partners and helping to make them successful. So for any partner that comes with the right mindset, the right resources available to start training, that knows what they're doing as far as marketing, I think we could, without hesitation, create a very successful and collaborative type of partnership, and we really value our partners. So I guess that might be something that's different, and we'd welcome the opportunity to speak with you. So if that's the last one, when it comes to valuing partners, the first person I really want to thank is Patricia. Thank you so much for being willing to do this and sharing some information about some of your customers and the successes that you've helped them to encounter. Really, really appreciate your time. And of course, thank you to everybody that has stayed on the call and has had great questions, and for your time and attention. We really appreciate that too.
And that was an excellent presentation, Patricia and Dawn. Thank you so much. The cloud, you know, it's not so new anymore, but it still is. It's cutting edge technology, and I've been in this ERP world for a long time, and people just don't like to let go of their ERP system. It's heart-wrenching for them, but to know that there is up-and-coming solutions that have evolved and are open and capable of addressing unique needs without so much pain. I think that, you know, it makes the expense a little bit easier to digest when you know you can, you know, make different turns in your ERP. So thank you two so much for joining us today. Great presentation. And thank you, audience. I know an hour of your time is very hard to come by, and we really appreciate your attention. And we do
any last minute things, Patricia, that you'd like to say?
No, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. Thank you so much, and Adrian, thank you too.
You're welcome.
You guys.
Thank you, and
thanks, everybody.
We did record this, so I will be sending the recording to everybody who attended and registered. Take care and enjoy your week.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. Yay. Bye.
Bye-bye.